When Ferran Torres left Manchester City earlier this month in a move to FC Barcelona, Sky Sports presenters were stunned by his €1 billion release clause. Of course, release clauses must be included, by law, in every professional football contract in Spain, and that has been the case since 1985. Consequently, Spanish teams have often set these release clauses prohibitively high in an effort to avoid themselves from getting caught out and being forced into sell players. And Barcelona are a team who are particularly conscious of this fact, having set what they thought was a ridiculous release clause for Neymar when they signed him, only for PSG to come along and actually trigger it in 2017. So, ridiculously high release clauses, in Spanish football at least, aren't that interesting, even if the English press still can't quite wrap their heads around them. But what can be interesting is surprisingly low release clauses. Players and, more often, agents like to have release clauses written into their clients' contracts, often with certain caveats such as if the team is relegated or if a certain team tries to sign them, because it gives them a very easy way out in that scenario, taking power away from the club and handing it over to the player. Kasper Schmeichel, for example, apparently has a £5 million release clause written into his current contract at Leicester City, but it is one which would only be triggered in the unlikely event that the Foxes are relegated. Jarrod Bowen has a similar clause which would force West Ham to accept any bids of £20 million or more should the Hammers go down. Both of those events are unlikely to unfold, however. So in today's video, we are more interested in release clauses that don't require any fanciful caveats and are already active and dangerous to the players' current clubs, perhaps even in this current January transfer window. Here are 7 footballers with dangerously low release clauses. And by that, I mean dangerous for the clubs who employ them. Marcus Thuram, £38.5 million. Marcus Thuram has suffered a fairly slow start to the 2021-22 season, having missed the first 2 months of the campaign with a couple of nasty knee injuries. He is still yet to record a goal or an assist for Borussia Mönchengladbach so far this season, though it is worth noting that he has only started 4 Bundesliga games and he has only made 12 appearances in all competitions. Thuram, whose father was among the finest defenders of his generation, is clearly a talent though. 2 seasons ago, as a 22-year-old, he scored 10 goals and made 8 assists for Gladbach from 28 appearances in the Bundesliga alone, and there was talk of him following in his father's footsteps by becoming a French international and joining one of Europe's superclubs. Thuram did indeed become a full French international, making his international debut in 2020, and he has since won 4 caps in total in a remarkably competitive position within Didier Deschamps' squad. But he didn't end up signing for any one of Manchester City, Liverpool, Juventus or FC Barcelona, all of whom he had been linked with. The following season, Thuram's numbers weren't quite as impressive, though he still impressed in the Champions League, and he was on the verge, supposedly, of joining Inter Milan last summer before his lengthy knee injury struck. A towering forward who combines a number of outstanding physical attributes with a tight first touch and plenty of ability with the ball at his feet, Thuram is still only 24. He won't have given up hope of playing for one of Europe's biggest teams yet, and if he can get back to his best, then £38.5 million is no longer the eye-watering sum in football that it once was. I mean, it's not even half of what Manchester United paid for Harry Maguire, and it's only slightly more than Chelsea paid for Danny Drinkwater. So Thuram seems like a solid inclusion to kickstart our 7. Jaime Seoane, £8.5 million. The least known name in this 7, I should think, Jaime Seoane plays in the Spanish Segunda Division for Huesca. A rumoured £8.5 million release clause might not seem like peanuts then, in a league where players rarely trade for 7 figures, but 1 or 2 eagle-eyed scouts might just be recommending that their employers take a look at him over the next few months. Seoane is a native of Madrid, and he joined Real Madrid's La Fabrica youth ranks at the age of 6. At the age of 16, he stepped up from the academy and into the Real Madrid Castilla first team, where he made 92 appearances in 3 seasons, most of which came in the Segunda Division B. A central midfielder who loves to play in a 3, which is exactly what he is doing at this moment in time, Seoane is an intelligent, gifted, and industrious midfield operator. and he has been, comfortably, among the best players in Spanish football's second division this season. A number of people at Real Madrid were keen to see Seoane stick around, but in the summer of 2019, he was allowed to join Huesca for an undisclosed fee. Following one promotion and one relegation, Seoane has come into a league of his own so far this season, scoring 7 goals and making 3 assists from 23 appearances. If a player were performing as he is currently in the Championship at the age of 24, I have little doubt that they would be valued at over £10 million. So £8.5 million seems like a potential bargain for someone in regard to Seoane sometime in the future, if not already. Yeremy Pino, £66.7 million. It is no secret that young players tend to attract higher valuations, given the amount of football that they have left in them, their room for improvement, and their potential sell-on value. And there are few bigger name young players in Spanish football than Yeremy Pino. Born in Las Palmas, which is the capital of the island of Gran Canaria, Yeremy joined Villarreal from the Las Palmas youth ranks as a 14-year-old, turning down an offer from FC Barcelona in the process. Within a year's time, he was representing Spain at under-16 level, and just 2 years later, he was already captaining the national team's under-18 side. An incredibly gifted and versatile forward who looks at his happiest when he is played out wide on the right, Yeremy is now a full Spanish international with 2 caps to his name, still aged only 19. His rise has been meteoric, though that hasn't come as a surprise to any of his coaches at any youth team level. Yeremy isn't lightning quick, but he's always been capable of beating players, scoring goals, and creating opportunities. Last season, he scored 7 times for Villarreal, and he has already made 7 goal contributions so far this season, courtesy of 3 goals and 4 assists. No teenager has made a greater contribution than Yeremy in La Liga this season, and in a world where Fabio Silva is worth £35 million and a teenage Anthony Martial a potential £57.6 million, Yeremy's £66.7 million release clause might just interest 1 or 2 giants across Europe. If that figure does pique their interest, they will wish that they'd struck a little earlier though, since Yeremy's release clause was just £25.65 million up until only 2 months ago, when he signed a new deal at Villarreal, which saw his release clause climb from less than €35 million to roughly €80 million. Mikel Merino, £38.5 million. I apologise for being quite so Spanish-centric so far in this 7, but I suppose the mandated release clauses make players playing in Spain more likely to feature in a 7 of this ilk. Mikel Merino is a player whose praises I have long sung on this channel, and I'm not going to stop now. Formerly of Newcastle United, Merino spent just a single season at St James's Park, but if the Magpies' new owners could attract someone of his calibre to the club right now, even with their Saudi billions, they will have done very well indeed. A fantastic midfield all-rounder who looks right at home in the Real Sociedad midfield, Merino is big, strong, he reads the game well, and he almost never stops running. His work rate and stamina are outstanding, but he is also deceptively good both on the ball and in the pass. Hence why he has already won 11 caps for Spain, despite only making his international debut in 2020. It was a clause in Moreno's loan deal from Borussia Dortmund to Newcastle, based upon playing a certain number of games, that meant Newcastle had to sign him. And it was also his £10 million release clause that Real Sociedad activated to sign him from Newcastle in 2018. Now I think Merino is entering clause-triggering territory once again, and whilst, like I say, he looks right at home at La Real at the moment, and £38.5 million is certainly a far chunkier fee than £10 million, his talents and performances are such that both Liverpool and Real Madrid have been linked with the 25-year-old, and for good reason. Gonçalo Inácio, £38.5 million. We finally depart the Spanish game for the first time in 3 inclusions as I begin the countdown of our top 3. But we don't have to travel far from Spain, less than 100 miles, as the crow flies in fact, to the Portuguese capital of Lisbon. Portugal might only be home to 10 million people, but the country has produced some outstanding centre-backs over the years. The great Fernando Couto was succeeded by the likes of Pepe and Ricardo Carvalho, meanwhile Ruben Dias appears to have ushered in the new era, soon to be joined by Gonçalo Inácio perhaps. Aged 20, Inácio is already a regular fixture in the Sporting Club de Portugal's starting 11. And following 25 appearances last season, during what was his debut campaign, he has already registered 22 appearances at the midway point in the current season. Inácio reportedly took great inspiration from training alongside Yeremy Pino when he broke through at Sporting. But I don't think that it would be being disrespectful to the Frenchman to suggest that Inácio has an even higher ceiling than the former Barcelona man. A ball-playing centre-back with an aerial ability that makes him a real asset in both boxes, Inácio still has plenty of room to improve, but his talent is there for all to see. Rather remarkably, Inácio signed 2 new contracts at Sporting in 2020 alone, as the club looked to tie him down, increase his salary, and with it, also his release clause. Even with those rises, a reported €45 million release clause will still seem attractive to a number of clubs if the youngster can maintain or even improve upon his current form, and Liverpool, Arsenal, and AC Milan are all believed to be keeping tabs on him. Julian Alvarez, £21 million. The top 2 in this 7 would seem to be in a world of their own in my opinion, in terms of the value for money that their release clauses present. Julian Alvarez's name is one that will be very familiar with many Manchester United fans, since the Red Devils have been strongly linked with the 21-year-old over the last few weeks. A sharp-eyed centre-forward who has been in absolutely lethal form over the past 12 months, Alvarez has fantastic attacking movement and can score goals from just about anywhere. Following 9 goals in 25 games last season, Alvarez has struck an incredible 20 times, in addition to making 6 assists, in only 23 games in the season just gone. No one in Argentina's Primera Division scored more than his 18 goals last season in a campaign which ended just last month, as Alvarez's goals played a vital role in firing River Plate to a 37th league title. South American clubs have become accustomed to losing their best young players to European teams, but they have at least started to receive significant sums in those deals over the past decade. River Plate, however, are in danger of losing Julian Alvarez for just a fraction of what he is surely worth. Given his goal-scoring record, along with the fact that he has already won 5 caps for Argentina at the age of only 21, a £21 million release clause seems like a no-brainer for any top team and a gamble that is surely worth taking at that price point. It seems likely that a number of teams have also reached that conclusion, but Manchester United are currently the favourites to sign Alvarez as they look to freshen up their centre-forward position where their current duo have a combined age of 70 and are both a month away from turning 37 and 35 respectively. Gavi, £42.75 million. Who else could it be in top spot other than Gavi, Barcelona's sensational midfield boy wonder who has magic in his feet? Following Pedri's unbelievable breakout campaign at Las Palmas and the 52 appearances that he made for Barcelona alone last season, it is hard to believe that some Barcelona fans no longer believe that he is even the most exciting teenage prospect within the team's midfield. Between Gavi, Pedri, and Nico Gonzalez, Barcelona might be a basket case off the pitch, but they certainly still have some outstanding young talent in midfield on it, and Frenkie de Jong is only 24 years old himself. Given the presence of Pedri, along with Frenkie de Jong and Sergio Busquets' continued importance to the club, it seems possible to me that we could see Gavi pushed out wide a little at times over the next couple of years, a bit like we saw with Andres Iniesta at the Camp Nou. Gavi is a midfield magician of the La Masia tradition with, if anything, a little bit more flair than one might expect of a midfielder coming through the club's youth ranks at this moment in time. Gavi has already made 23 appearances for Barcelona so far this season, in addition to winning 4 caps for Spain, one of which came as a start in the final of the 2021 UEFA Nations League, which is just phenomenal for a 17-year-old. With all that in mind, it is no exaggeration to say that Gavi is one of the most valuable players in world football, and certainly one of the most valuable teenagers. Without the presence of a release clause, one doubts that Barcelona would entertain offers under £100 million. And even in their current financial situation, there would be riots on the streets of Catalonia if the club were to accept a bid of even double that amount. It is alarming for the club then that Gavi still has a €50 million release clause that was written into his current contract. which is said to be worth less than £3,000 a week, which was signed in September of 2020. It's no wonder that Barcelona are frantically trying to tie him down on a longer deal right now then, offering to increase both his salary and his release clause by factors of 30 at a minimum. So that is it for today's video, but thank you all from the bottom of my heart for tuning in as ever. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, I hope that was the case. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed, of course, and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on Twitter and on Instagram via the username at HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.